Again, thank you all for joining today. My name is Carissa Smith, and I am the product manager for the suite of DuraSpace services, of which DuraCloud Vault is one. Hopefully, you should be able to see my screen. Okay, I am sharing my entire computer at this point. As you probably have noticed, I have audio just for myself and the presenters enabled, but I would encourage you to interact with the chat feature that's on the left-hand side of your screen. This is truly meant to be informative for you. I could certainly do these demos in my sleep. So please don't hesitate to use the chat feature as I'm going through today's session and insert any questions or comments you have, and I will address them as I'm doing the demo, and also I'll be sure to save time at the end for questions. So I have about 45 minutes or so of a demo scheduled, and then I'll certainly leave about 15 minutes at the end for questions and try to wrap up right at 4 p.m. Eastern time to be respectful of all of your busy schedules. But again, feel free to insert questions, comments, or clarifications into the chat window, and I will address them as they come up as I'm going through the demo, or if you are more comfortable, you can hold them to the end as well. With that, I will get started. And I thought first I would show the DuraCloudVault.org website. I'm going to spend a lot of time talking today about how you would go about getting started using the DuraCloud Vault service to begin ingesting your content into Deepin. So DuraCloud Vault is a service that is in partnership not only with the DuraCloud service from the DuraSpace not-for-profit organization, it's also directly tied to Chronopolis. So it is the pathway into the Chronopolis storage network that is part of the Digital Preservation Network. So it's a joint service offering between DuraSpace and Chronopolis. And the way you would go about getting started is really as simple as visiting the website and inserting your information here in the screen, or you could also express your interest by going to the Deepin website or emailing Mary or Dave at Deepin. That's really the start of using DuraCloud Vault, is expressing interest and then scheduling a conversation with one of our team members to get started. We don't have any like automatic account spinning up services, because this is certainly something that takes some discussion to get started. So it's really as simple as that to get your account set up. So with that, I will stop talking to a website, which is likely boring, and transition to the heart of the demonstration. In the next tab, I have a running DuraCloud Vault account. A few things I'll pause and note here before I log in, and that is every single Deepin member who decides to use DuraCloud Vault as their mechanism for depositing their content into Deepin will have their own independent DuraCloud account running on their behalf. Right now, my account is available at vault.duracloud.org, but that's just for demonstration. Your institution will have a customized URL such that it could be duke.duracloud.org, syracuse.duracloud.org, wisconsin.duracloud.org, whatever you would like that URL to be, and it will be your institution's DuraCloud account. Pretty straightforward. Upon logging in here, I'll also note that you can have multiple usernames and passwords, user profiles, to log into the system and add content. You don't just have to share one administrative login. We can create many different usernames and passwords, so you don't have to worry about other staff members stepping on each other's toes within the next interface. All parts of the conversation to get your account set up, but really pretty straightforward. All right, so upon delving into this interface, and there's quite a bit of information presented to you, I can first orient you to the DuraCloud web application that you're viewing right now. So at the top left-hand side of your screen, of course, you see DuraCloud branding, you see Deepin branding, and then on the right side, you see DuraCloud Vault branding. So many logos, so little time. But likely of much more interest is the details in the interface below. On the leftmost side of your screen, in the leftmost column, you'll see, there we go, the spaces column. Space is a term that the DuraCloud team created, and it's analogous to a content container, a content bucket. It's essentially a high-level folder or container that holds your content items within this interface and prepares them to be then transferred into Deepin for storage. So again, a space is just a container for your digital content. And I'll walk through creating one of those in just a moment. Before I click on anything else in the interface, I did want to note the fun colors and graphs here on the right-hand side of your screen. The history charts, as well as the storage pie charts that are broken out by the spaces you have created, as well as the MIME types you're storing, are automatically generated by this DuraCloud interface and updated on a weekly basis. And as you are transferring content into DuraCloud Vault and creating your collection of materials that you will then eventually transition into Deepin, the DuraCloud Vault interface will report to you the types of content that you have created, how much content is in the DuraCloud Vault interface, and some of the history of the content you've added over time. So if that's of interest, it is available to you here at a very high level. One last thing I'll note about DuraCloud Vault in particular is that this interface and transitioning content into it is really meant to be temporary, meaning that it will assist you in transferring your content, building a collection or a corpus of materials, and then at some point in the future when you, the member, decide you have all of the materials assembled that you're ready to transition off to Deepin, this interface will very quickly and easily enable you to just push that material into Deepin storage. It's really as simple as a click of a button, which I will be demonstrating today. But this interface is not meant for long-term storage. Certainly it is assisting you in creating your collection of materials that will then live in Deepin, in the Deepin network. All right, I'm going to pause and take a breath here. So the first step, and I'm going to spend a lot of time today talking about the introductory steps of how you get your account set up and how you transfer content into this interface. There's likely a whole separate series of webinars about all of the features and functionality built into this interface as well, but I'm really going to kind of front end my demo with the getting started steps and transferring content. So the first step, I have so many caveats and segues here. The first step in adding content to your DuraCloud Vault account will be adding a new space. So I have a couple sample spaces here, which I'll be talking about in just a moment. But when you, a Deepin member, first have your account created, this entire column will be empty. There won't be any spaces, there won't be any snapshots, which I'll explain in just a moment. It will be completely blank slate. So the first step you'll need to do is add a space. There is a little pop-up window and you're prompted to add a name. Actually, let me do this. A name of a space. The gray gives you a couple shades of gray. The lighter gray color gives you a couple rules about space names. Essentially no crazy dot-dash combinations, but it's pretty straightforward otherwise. So I just typed in the name of the space called pets, and you can see that it has been added to the space list here, and it is also automatically selected. After selecting a space, and I can click on any of these to select them, and the interface will update accordingly. In the center of your screen, you'll see the content items column. And I see a question popping up, so I just want to address that. Tracy Seneca asks, if DuraCloud is a temporary store, will it still be able to provide an overall report of everything we have in Deepin, or do the reports go away as content leaves DuraCloud? Great question, Tracy. The reports are accessible in DuraCloud, and you can see the names of the content items that you have stored in Deepin. It's just the content items themselves are no longer stored in this web interface, but the reports and access to the content item names and a lot of other details are available, and I'll get to that. Great questions, though. Please do keep them coming. So back to the spaces. I've selected a space just by clicking anywhere in the row of the space name. I should note that the interface, this DuraCloud Vault interface, is oriented from left to right, so you see more detailed information as your eyes move further right on the screen. In the center of your screen, you'll always see the content items that are being stored in space. And right now, of course, I just created a space that is empty. And then on the right-hand side, you'll always see the detail for whatever it is you've selected in the previous two columns. Right now, I have a space selected. It's highlighted in dark gray. So I see the space details here on the right-hand side of the screen. And I will talk about these here in a moment. But the first thing I want to do is talk about how you add content to your DuraCloud Vault account, because I'm sure that's probably the one single most important piece of functionality that you are all interested in seeing today. So one of the easiest ways, once you get your DuraCloud Vault account up and running, to really familiarize yourself with the interface and just kind of muck around, is to use the upload tool here in the center of this interface. This enables you to pick and choose one file at a time, or drag and drop a handful of files, 1 to 10 to 15-ish, and add them to this dotted line. Really great, again, if you're just really familiarizing yourself with the interface and trying to get started and become used to using this interface. However, as you probably have already figured out, dragging and dropping or individually selecting files is not really going to work if you have a terabyte or 2 terabytes of content that is dispersed amongst tens to hundreds of thousands of files. So again, this upload through the web interface is great for testing and for my purposes of demoing, but the real meat and potatoes of transferring content into DuraCloud is with a tool called the DuraCloud Synchronization Tool, or Sync Tool, or Sync Utility. It goes by many names, but it is a standalone tool that allows you to bulk upload and transfer a large subset of your content to DuraCloud Vault. This tool is freely available in the DuraCloud documentation, but to assist users in finding the tool, you simply click on the little hyperlink down here in the bottom of this upload pop-up window, and it will take you to the documentation area where you can download the synchronization tool, or the sync tool. A few kind of counter notes about the sync tool. There are various installers based on what operating system you're using, as you might expect. And there's also, for the more technically inclined in the group, a Java jar file that you can use to interact with the tool from the command line, if you are more comfortable, or that is your preferred method of interacting with these types of tools. The other 3 installers, Mac, Linux, and Windows, enable you to download the tool. It's a double-click install, very easy to do. I put the tool right on my desktop, which I will show you right here. And it is a graphical user interface tool to walk you through a wizard. And it's again, it's as simple as downloading and double-clicking to install. At which point, when you double-click the icon that I just showed, and I put it on my desktop, but you could install it wherever you'd like, it will open up in a new tab within your browser, and it will walk you through how you select and then upload your content to DuraCloud Vault. So although the DuraCloud Vault interface here is very pretty, when you first get started with DuraCloud Vault and your Deepin account, you'll really be spending a lot of your time here with the DuraCloud Sync tool, transferring your materials into your DuraCloud Vault account and preparing them for their future storage and deepen. So I just want to be probably unnecessarily transparent and clear. So there's two really separate tools and interfaces that you'll be interacting with. The Sync tool is kind of the second one that I'll be demoing today. So with that, I'm going to actually delve into the Sync tool and demonstrate how you would transfer some content to DuraCloud Vault. The first step is clicking the Continue button to walk through the wizard. Assuming I can click, there you go. The first screen in the DuraCloud Sync tool wizard is asking you what mode you'd like to run the Sync tool in. Now, because DuraCloud and the DuraCloud Sync tool are also used by our subscription customers, there is some overlap in features and functionality, which may or may not be useful for DuraCloud Vault Deepen members. And this is one of those. Settings. So originally, the Sync tool was developed by the DuraCloud team in order for it to be a truly synchronous tool. It would run, it would monitor all the directories of a customer had chosen and synchronize all those changes to a DuraCloud account. However, that may not be useful for Deepen members who are really just transitioning a subset of their materials or a large collection to DuraCloud Vault at one time. They don't need to continuously monitor those local collections for changes, etc. So in that case, I would highly recommend, and again, this is an assumption, using the single pass only, which doesn't resonate to me, a one-time upload mode for the Sync tool, meaning that you will, in the subsequent screens, pick the content you want to upload. The Sync tool will upload the content and then it will shut down and you'll be done. You will have uploaded your content to DuraCloud. You can start it up at another time, point it to another subset of materials, upload it, and be done. If you did want to run the tool in a continuous fashion and have it continue to monitor perhaps a subset of materials on your local machine, you could choose the run continuously option. That's something, again, I'm happy to talk about one-on-one as we get Deepen members accounts set up and running. But I'm going to assume, for the most part, single pass only will be the mode that many of you will choose and that will match your use case and your needs. All right. The next screen is one of the most straightforward. You need to insert your DuraCloud URL or host name, and then, of course, your username and password. So you certainly need to authenticate with this tool in order to transition content into your DuraCloud Vault account. The next step is choosing the space that you would like to upload your content into. So I had just created a pets space. So I'm going to want to transition content into that space. I'm going to choose next. The next step is choosing the content that you would like to upload from your local machine. So you can see a whole list of local directories that are on my Mac laptop that I'm running the tool on. And I had created on my desktop a couple different directories of pet photos. Anybody who's ever seen me do a demo before knows I love animals. So I have a whole directory of puppy photos that I would like to upload, so I'm going to choose the puppy directory. And then I can continue to add additional directories. I could add my entire user directory if I wanted, or again, I can delve down into subdirectories and just upload what's below them. So now I'm going to upload, excuse me, my kittens directory as well. So I have photos of puppies and kittens. The next and last step in this wizard is determining what policies you want the synchronization tool to follow when it's interacting with your local content. And again, This is a setting that is likely of more use to our regular DuraCloud customers and may not be as applicable to DuraCloud Vault users, depending on what mode you're using the tool in. If the tool is in continuously synchronizing and monitoring those local directories, that puppy and kittens, the tool needs to know how to interact with your content when it encounters certain actions. So the first action it could potentially encounter in my puppy or kitten directory is if I delete one or several of those photos in those directories. How do I want the synchronization tool to handle that if it's supposed to be continuously monitoring that directory? By default, the sync tool just ignores local deletes. It doesn't care. It keeps the original files preserved in DuraCloud, and it doesn't do anything. Again, we had several DuraCloud customers who had a use case around keeping their local directories exactly mirrored in DuraCloud, which included synchronizing deletes of DuraCloud content to mirror local deletes. I'm on my soapbox. I really don't recommend using the sync deletes option. And if you're using the tool in a one-time upload, single pass only, this doesn't really apply. So probably really can just ignore most of what I said, but I did want to explain what that does. And I did see a question come in. Oh, great question, Sean. Is there a total file number or size limit per upload? There is not. You could select, if you wanted to, 100 terabytes of content. The sync tool, and I'll show you some ways to optimize the transfer, will continue to chug along and chug along and chug along until it has uploaded that material into your DuraCloud Vault account. It is relying on two very important things. It is relying on the compute capabilities of the machine that you're running the tool on. So right now I'm running on a Mac laptop, so it's going to use the compute capacity in my Mac laptop. And it's also, as you might have already guessed, it's also relying on your internet connection as well. So if you have a slow processor and a not so great internet connection, loading 100 terabytes of content into DuraCloud Vault may take you some time. I would certainly recommend, if you have a very large amount of content that you'd like to upload to DuraCloud, running it on a very that's the word I'm struggling for, a souped up computer that has a lot of processing capability enabled on it, and also likely not a problem for many of you. You're on institutional networks that have quite a bit of bandwidth already enabled to them. So that probably won't be as much of a problem. But just so you know, there are no limits. It's just more of what your computer and your network is able to kind of push through. I see another. Flannan asks, is there CLI for the sync tool? Yes, there is a command line interface for the sync tool. It was available on the wiki page that I was just at. It's a Java jar file, which you can download and interact with instead of using this GUI version of the tool. Absolutely. All right, keep the questions coming. I'm going to keep my eye on the time and keep trucking through as well, but please do continue to insert questions into the chat feature. Similar to the delete policy is the update policy, and I'm going to start moving through this a little bit more quickly. Again, if you're just doing a one-time upload, these policies don't really apply. You can ignore them. But if you are using the tool in a truly synchronization fashion, it's going to continue to monitor that puppy and kitten directory. And if you make changes to content, what do you want the sync tool to do? It can do one of three things. It can upload the newest version from your local machine into your DuraCloud account and overwrite an existing copy. It can ignore that local change and keep the original preserved in DuraCloud. Or it can, the third bullet here is update but not overwrite. I translated that into versioning. So it will update it will upload that locally changed version of the content item to DuraCloud, keep the original, and just append on the date stamp to the new version of the content item. So if I was updating my Boston Terrier puppy photo on a daily basis, I could have 7 days worth of Boston Terrier, that same Boston Terrier photo in my DuraCloud account with the dates appended. And then finally, I see I have a couple questions. I'm going to finish the screen and I'll get to those. The first time you use this tool to transition content into DuraCloud, I would highly recommend using the Jumpstart feature, which I will turn on. The sync tool has a lot of built-in checks and double checks that aren't necessary when you're uploading content to a empty DuraCloud account. So if you're using this, again, as a first-time upload, you can accelerate the process. The sync tool will not do some of those initial checks, but anytime subsequently thereafter, you can ignore this box and not accelerate the process. All right, with that, I'm going to click Next. We're in the final stages of uploading content, but I'm going to get to some of the questions. Bill inserted, my colleague Bill Brannon, who's the technical lead for DuraCloud, inserted the link to the command line version of the synchronization tool. And then Mark asks, I have been running DSpace for so long, the talk of backing up individual files and directories doesn't make sense. Will it take zip files containing DSpace collections in exported SAF format? Great question, Mark. DuraCloud will take content in any format, encrypted or not. It's file agnostic. Specifically for DSpace, though, there is a DSpace to DuraCloud/DuraCloud Vault plugin available. Trying to remember the name of it, and Bill, you might be able to Google and find it for me, that you can install on DSpace 1.7 and above that will allow you to directly, from the DSpace administrative interface, transition your DSpace content to your DuraCloud Vault, along with the metadata as well. So there's a direct integration in place there, as Bill noted. Replication task suite. Thank you, Bill. Bill Brannon put the link in the chat as well for that. And then TR asks that he has the same question, but with Fedora or at the repository level. That's a great question, TR. Sorry, I don't know what the acronym stands for. We are in talks with the Fedora team and the latest release of Fedora and how to integrate backing up Fedora data streams or Fedora objects in DuraCloud. There is not an analogous replication task suite option for Fedora or the other repositories at this time, but it's something certainly we're talking with the Fedora team and we'll continue to pursue. All right, keeping my eye on the time. Great questions all. So the next and last screen in the sync tool setup is just getting started. And you have 3 options. Start Now will launch you into the next and main screen of the synchronization tool, and we'll start uploading content as soon as you click Start Now. If you click Continue, it'll just launch you into the next screen, and then you can start the upload at your discretion, perhaps when you're walking out of the office in the evening and you want it to run overnight. And then thirdly, you can click on Optimize, and that will launch you into the optimization area, which I will show you how to do in just a moment. But for the purposes of the demo, I'm going to click Continue so you can see the main screen of the sync tool. So the DuraCloud interface that I showed before is essentially your window into the content you're preparing for Deepin. The sync tool screen that you see here is your window into watching kind of by the second content transferring from your local machine to your DuraCloud Vault account. And you'll see that in just a moment when I start the process. This interface will update every single millisecond, essentially, with details for you. A couple things to note in the interface. You can see that a synchronization has started. This will turn to a green bar and tell you that it's transitioning content to your DuraCloud Vault account. You can see how many items are in the queue, if there's been any errors detected. You can see the actual individual files that are in the queue to be transitioned to your DuraCloud Vault account. The actual items that are being actively transferred to DuraCloud Vault will appear in the left panel in the Active Syncs area. You can download a complete history of content that you've transferred to DuraCloud Vault through this interface. And then lastly, there is a configuration tab here as well that will enable you to change any of the configuration settings that you've had input in the previous screens of the wizard quite easily. So you can change what directories you're uploading, you can change what username or what space you're uploading to, you can change the policies, and lastly at the very bottom, excuse me, I wanted to note the optimize capability. So again, when you first start using this tool, I would very much recommend running this optimize automatically script. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes, depending or less, depending on what your internet connection is. But it will, the sync tool will run a few tests. It will set the correct number of simultaneous uploads, or what is called here threads, based on how much compute capacity is available on your local machine as well as your network connection. And then it will, the tool will then perform uploads with that number of parallel threads uploading content to DuraCloud Vault. So it allows you to make the tool as efficient as possible without slogging down your computer speed or your network speed as well. So again, it's as simple as clicking on this button. The tool will run a few scripts, and then it will automatically set the correct number of threads or parallel uploads. You can also manually set this as well if that's of interest. Okay. Lastly, I just wanted to click Start to show how this interface looks when content is actually actively being uploaded to DuraCloud Vault. So you can see down here in the bottom I had 15, and now I just have 7 items queued for synchronization. There are active syncs happening on the right-hand side. I know this screen is constantly flashing new details as content items are added to DuraCloud. And I see a couple other questions coming in, so let me address those while that's uploading. Okay, so Dave noted that walking a Fedora repository graph of objects is under investigation. Certainly, it is something that's on the DuraSpace team's radar, as well as the Deepin team as well. TR noted, I was wondering if maybe you might take advantage of something like a bag and export for Fedora objects. I'll keep an eye out for more info in the future. And apologies, I don't know what's a question, what's a statement, so I'm just going to read these all out loud. Mark asks, is there a replication task suite for current versions 5.x of DSpace? Yes, the answer is absolutely yes. The replication task suite works with all versions that are DSpace 1.8. Sorry, I misspoke. I said 1.7 and above, including 5.x. We actually run the replication task suite with our DSpace Direct service directly to DuraCloud. So it works like a charm. All right, so as I was reading the comments and answering questions, and again, thank you all for the great questions coming in. Keep them coming. The synchronization tool uploaded my kittens and puppies photos. The tool has now stopped because it has uploaded everything that it needed to upload. And if I had other content in 2 days from now that I wanted to upload, I can go back to the configuration area, change the directories, and start it all over again if I wanted to do that. Going back to now the DuraCloud Vault interface, I'm going to refresh my pets space, and we will see, assuming I haven't been talking too long and it hasn't logged me out. We can see now the 15 content items, the puppies and kittens photos, have landed in DuraCloud Vault. And now the next step in the process is one that you take when you have assembled your content in such a way that you're ready to transition it into deepen storage. So again, it's something that we don't anticipate you doing in a day necessarily. Assembling your content in a DuraCloud space, but when you are ready, when you have assembled the content that you're ready to then transition into deepen, the next step can be found in the space detail area, and that is creating a snapshot. So again, another term that we're throwing into the mix, but a snapshot is a collection of materials that DuraCloud Vault, the interface, will create, and then it will transition those down to deepen storage, and I'll talk a little bit more in detail in just a moment about that entire process. A few things to note here: you can add individual properties and tags to content items here in the interface before you transition them to deepen. So the sync tool automatically captures some important properties around the modified, accessed, and file created dates from the items as they were stored locally, as well as the original file path to that content item on the local device that it was being uploaded from, as well as the creator of this content item. So that would be the DuraCloud user who uploaded it. And then I can add one-word tags as well, which are preserved as the item moves to deepen. So just wanted to note that here as well. Let's see a couple other questions coming in. Sorry for jumping back and forth. TR noted that one more question: these tools are showing syncing of data content. What about metadata? Is the assumption that users will be providing paired metadata with their uploads as well? It seems like without the metadata, the individual data would be unoptimal for data recovery. Again, I'm thinking of how this might fit into disaster recovery for, say, content in a repository. Those are, I think, all really great questions, and we're still at the kind of infancy stage of determining best practices around how you organize your content, the metadata that you add to your content that is then being transitioned into deepen storage. And I know it's something that Mary has talked a bit about in the last several months' deepen meetings. There are working groups around metadata in particular and best practices around metadata. So I think all of that is underway in discussion. The tooling is there, but the best practices are still to be determined. And Dave notes, and I'll just verbalize here, disaster recovery would be mediated with deepen to facilitate data movement, minimize costs, etc. All great questions. Okay, so again, I have 20 minutes left, so I'm going to try to speed through this and fit it all in. So the pets space, if I click on it, I've prepared all of the material. I'm ready to transition these 15 items into deepen. The next step will be to create a snapshot. So you can simply click the Create Snapshot button. Insert a description that you want to have stored with this snapshot of materials in deepen. So you can add whatever you like in the description box. And then the next step would be to click the Create button. Now, depending on how large of a space you've created, how many content items you have uploaded, and how many gigabytes or terabytes of content the snapshot entails, it may take some time to move through the various points and phases within the transition out of DuraCloud Vault and temporary storage into deepen. So the purpose of the demo is I have a couple other spaces here that are in the various stages. So as soon as you click the Create Snapshot button, your space will then look like the example-shuttle space. You'll see here in the space details that a snapshot request has been issued, and a subsequent snapshot has been created and is available here in the interface. It has the same exact space name as well as the date that the snapshot was created appended to it. And you can easily click on a space here and see the associated snapshot as well. There is metadata about the snapshot itself captured by DuraCloud Vault, including the date that the snapshot was created, the original space where the content items are coming from, the description that you insert into that pop-up box. In this case, it was example space shuttle dataset. Say that 10 times fast. And you can see in this case, there were originally 3 items in this space. In my case, I had 15 pet images. And then DuraCloud Vault also takes all of the properties that are listed here and creates a properties file that is then stored with this snapshot in Deepin as well. I think there's other questions coming in, so it's a good time. Bill notes from a repository, you will want to export metadata into files which can be included in the dataset and snapshot. Yes, right now that is a good solution, is to store your metadata in separate files, and then that can be stored alongside the files themselves in snapshot in Deepin. Okay. Again, apologies for going back and forth. Unfortunately, I can't see when I'm sharing my screen, I can't see the comments that are in Adobe. All right. So again, we've clicked the snapshot button. A snapshot request has been sent. What that means, what's happening in the background from a software perspective, is that the DuraCloud Vault interface is communicating with a bridge server that is located, in this specific case, at the University of California, San Diego, the Chronopolis storage location, and it is preparing itself to receive the content from DuraCloud Vault. So that's kind of what's happening in the background when a snapshot request has been issued. And then the 2 systems will begin the work of transitioning content from DuraCloud Vault down to Chronopolis and what we would call the bridge server. And that bridge server will do the work of preparing the content for long-term storage within Deepin. So a few things that the bridge server does: it is doing checksum validations of the content that it's receiving, and DuraCloud is doing a verification as well to make sure that the content that it has stored in the vault is the same content that lands at that bridge server at UCSD's campus. The bridge server is also generating additional checksums for Deepin. So this might be delving into the weeds here. DuraCloud Vault leverages MD5 checksums. Deepin is leveraging, I believe, SHA-256 checksums. So those 2 calculations are done by the bridge server. And the bridge is also taking the snapshot and creating Deepin bags and Deepin bag IDs with the materials, and then transitioning those out into the node, and then we'll also be transitioning content to 2 other Deepin nodes as well. So there's a whole lot of technical work that's happening in the background. So again, just underscoring the fact that it won't happen immediately, that your snapshot will be created and dispersed into the Deepin network. But this interface will allow you to check in on the status of where your snapshot is in the system. I did just see a pop-up real quickly. Kyle Fenton asks, does 1 DuraCloud snapshot equal 1 Deepin bag? And the answer is not necessarily. If you have a very, very large snapshot, so with DuraCloud Vault, we are not putting any restrictions on how big a snapshot can be or how many content items. We don't think that that would really be analogous to your workflow. Something that the bridge server is doing, though, is creating Deepin bags that meet the specifications that Deepin has laid out. So a snapshot, that was a long-winded response. All that is to say, if you have a very big snapshot, it may be broken out into multiple Deepin bags. If you have a small snapshot like the sample sets that I'm showing, it will likely be analogous. 1 DuraCloud snapshot equals 1 Deepin bag, just because it's small and will meet that specification. But if you have a very big snapshot, it may equal multiple Deepin bags. And I think Bill noted the exact size limitations there. And I'll show you in just one moment, Kyle, the DuraCloud Vault interface is keeping track of what an individual snapshot equals in terms of what deepen bags it's been broken out into. So you have access to that information all here in the interface. Okay, so phase one, you created a snapshot here within the interface. Once the UCSD bridge server has done all of those checksum checks, it has prepared the content for deepen, and it has transitioned that content into deepen. The next step that you'll see is that, let me see, let me click on the right one here, a snapshot status that says that the snapshot has been completed. So I should have clicked on this before. There are two statuses here. The sample one that I was just talking about that's waiting for deepen and is being prepared by the bridge server. The status in the detail panel here says waiting for deepen. And again, this will, as soon as the content has been pushed into deepen, then the snapshot will look like the example set snapshot. The status says that the snapshot is complete. That means that all of the content has moved into the deepen network. There is other information that is being captured, and there's a whole list potentially of information that could be presented here, including the storage nodes that your content is being stored at within deepen, etc. But for the purposes of the demo, you can see that here in the history area, there's a data set as well as deepen bag ID that's being reported after the snapshot has completed its transition into deepen. As I mentioned, other potential reports that could be available here in the future include perhaps the date that it was ingested into the second deepen node, the name of that deepen node. So perhaps you'll see that the second deepen node for this snapshot is Stanford, and it was ingested 2 days after the first deepen node, in this case Chronopolis, received the content. There's certainly a lot of data that could be reported here, and we'll be working with members to really flesh out what you want to see here in this reporting interface. But again, back to one of the earlier questions, you can see here in the snapshot detail area what analogous deepen bags were created out of that snapshot, and again, the date that all of this is happening. Of note as well is that we are preserving the deepen member ID as well with the snapshot in the bags that are going into the system as well. And you can see, again, hearkening to yet another question, you can see here in the snapshot detail content items list all of the original content items that we had uploaded into DuraCloud Vault, but that are now in comprising that snapshot in those deepen bags. So you can't actually download these items from this interface, but you can see the content items that comprise that snapshot in that deepen bag. And then lastly, I'll note a few things here in the spaces area. So when you first click snapshot and your content is being transitioned down into the bridge server at University of California, San Diego, your space then becomes read-only, meaning that as the DuraCloud Vault interface is transitioning content down, you no longer have the ability to add additional content or make any changes. You want to preserve the content that you're snapshotting as it is when you click that snapshot button. So it will change the permissions, and you will no longer be able to make any changes to a space. And then once the content has been provisioned into deepen, the space will then be cleaned out, and it will be able to be uploaded. Wow, can't compose a sentence here. The space will be cleaned out in its entirety, and then you will be able to re-upload content into the same space if you'd like to. So this is the final step in the process within DuraCloud Vault. Once it confirms that all of the content in, for instance, go back to something that's easier to talk to, my pet space, once it confirms that those 15 items in that snapshot are provisioned off into Chronopolis and the other deepened storage nodes, then the final step for DuraCloud Vault is to receive a confirmation that everything has replicated as it should. It will then and only then delete these 15 items from this temporary storage area and then become empty, and then you'll be able to reuse this space. So that's something I wanted to underscore as well, that throughout this entire transition process, the DuraCloud Vault interface will only delete content from temporary storage when it has confirmed that the snapshot and the deepen bags have been provisioned within the deepen network. Okay, as I mentioned, I could talk all day about this interface, but I wanted to hit the high points and the workflow. And I have 8 minutes left, not the 15 that I wanted, but please don't hesitate to insert questions into the chat. I'm sure all of you have many questions, so please don't hesitate to use that now. I will also insert my email address, so if you have any other specific DuraCloud Vault questions, please don't hesitate to send those my way. Deepen specific questions or around membership can be sent to Mary or Dave at Deepen. Tracy Seneca asks, will we be using the same interface to get content back out of Deepen? I believe the answer to that is yes, Tracy. If you use DuraCloud Vault to ingest your content into Deepen, that will be the way to perform a disaster recovery or restore scenario as well. Mary noted that if anybody has questions about the deposit agreements, to send them her way, mary@deepen.org. Other questions from folks? And I really do appreciate everybody sitting through my 50-minute demo. Dave noted that in most cases, yes, we would use DuraCloud Vault to perform recoveries, but as you very rightly noted, that we would explore other methods for very large volume recoveries. And I think it will come down to working that out. If you have 100 terabyte data recovery, it may not be the most efficient to perform that recovery through DuraCloud Vault, because you're leveraging an internet connection and one interface. And DuraCloud Vault itself is running on Amazon, so there are costs to keep in mind. So certainly we are exploring large volume scenarios and recoveries discussions as well. Other questions that I can answer for the folks on the line today. And again, I'll just underscore my appreciation for everybody hanging with me in my 50-minute demo. I do truly appreciate it. It's a very intricate system. There are a lot of bells and whistles and features and functionality that the DuraCloud development team and the Deepen development team have built. And I could talk about it all day, obviously. So please don't hesitate to reach out. All right, I don't see some chatter, but no comments or questions coming in. Again, thank you all for your time today. It will be recorded and available on YouTube, and then there's also another session. The same session will be happening again next week if you have colleagues who would like to attend. Same place, same time, next Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday, and again, don't hesitate to reach out to any of us via email if you have additional questions. Thank you all.